Good morning.
Good morning.
Always good to be here to introduce our near-death experiencer speaker. Susan, I think it's probably you that chose these inspirational readings this week. It's interesting to note, two of them have spoken from this podium. Eben Alexander about 5 years ago, and I believe Melvin Morris did. He was one of the first near-death experiences that I had, and this would be about 8 or 9 years ago that Dr. Morris spoke here. And it's really interesting, starting with Raymond Moody in '75 when he wrote his first book, and then research in the early '80s. These people were all medical doctors like Melvin Morris, or psychiatrists, psychologists, and you'd think at least the medical doctors would be interested in the physicalness of the near-death experience, and the light and the tunnel and all of that. But they weren't. Not a single one wrote in their books much about that. All of them, especially Raymond Moody, started his research really from listening to patients who came back after cardiac arrests and said, during this experience I had, I saw the light, I may have met a divinity, I may have met family members. I had this most wonderful experience, and now all at once, I love my wife and my family, it seems more, and as it said in our reading, I really don't care if I go to work and make more money. That's not what it's about. And so that really inspired Raymond Moody to write his book, and that trend has followed in near-death experiences. We're not so concerned about the dynamics of the cardiac arrest and all of that, although it's now been studied in great detail. But what more and more books are written about, and what I think more of us want to hear about, is that actual experience, and then it's called the after effects of how it changes our lives. And that's our speaker today. The Reverend Tom Leach really talks from his heart about the experience and how it changed him. And he really talks from the heart. And he says, and I don't want to take too many of his words, but, he made some bad decisions perhaps. And now he really is wanting to make better decisions. And so with no more words. Well, Tom, come on up. Start to come up. He comes from Bel Air, which is a suburb of, as he would say, Baltimore. Now we would say Baltimore, but they don't say. They say Baltimore. And
Baltimore. Yeah, I'm from Blair and Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore. And so to a certain extent, he's not really one of us in Virginia, but he's close. And,
yeah, we were nearby.
And we accept him. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you. I remember sitting in an IONS meeting, one of the first ones that I'd ever attended, and I'd always wanted to talk about it, but I didn't have the nerve. And when you consider some of the things I've done in my life, nerve wasn't exactly one of the things I thought I was missing. So I made the comment, I said, I think I could do this. And a friend of mine pointed to Neil and said, that's Neil, that's who you need to talk to. And it was at that moment I realized I was in so much trouble. So I started yesterday with this little tidbit. My last death was 9 years ago and 6 days. So it's that recent of an anniversary, February 27th of 2008. The person I was when this happened to me, I was unloving of everything, including myself. I was functional. I was a professional drunk. I don't believe I was an alcoholic, but I did it very well. And if I could have made money at it, I would have my own beach island. I heard people's stories, and I didn't care. I'm rolling my eyes because why are you telling me this? I knew I was an empath. I didn't know what that meant. I know I felt other people's feelings, and I didn't like it. I was in situations where I could run away and just be by myself because I couldn't handle all of the energy. I was a passionate Ravens fan. Sitting in a crowd of 60,000 people was not easy, and I paid for the privilege. I was a void. I wasn't a real person. I had been told that I wouldn't amount to or succeed at anything. I spent most of my life proving them correct. And then a few things started changing. I had an argument with a friend of mine I got hung up on because I didn't agree with his position on global warming. He called me an idiot. Okay. Not long after that, a friend of mine forgot my birthday. In my family and in my history, my birthday is December the 30th, 5 days after Christmas. So when I did get presents, they were Christmas/birthday presents. But it was forgotten more than not. It's the day before New Year's Eve, so everybody's getting ready to celebrate the new year. So when it's forgotten, it hits me in my heart. I swore then and there, with all the anger and rage that had built up in me over all these years, that I would never allow anyone to treat me like that ever again. I started making some positive changes. I quit drinking. Cold turkey, by the way. Just decided it wasn't what I wanted to do. I stopped eating French fries. I was 285 pounds when I made that decision. 5'8". There was more roly than poly. I lost 100 pounds and then promptly died. I'm glad it went in that direction and the other way. If I had still had that weight, we would not be having this conversation today. I won't go into all of the detail of what happened to cause me to die. I will say that I had a heart attack with absolutely no pain. Being an EMT, I had been with many, many folks who had heart attacks who had a lot of pain. I was blessed that I did not. I had the experience of going through the tunnel. I had the experience of watching things happen while I was not in my body. I was greeted by my father, who we did not get along. We did not see eye to eye. We didn't like each other. But he was the first one to meet me. I didn't see him. The only thing I saw in heaven was my life review. Yes. 3D, HD, full color. But I smelled aqua velva. That was dead. I could feel something brushing on my leg. I knew it was the tail of my dog Taffy. And she had been very important to me growing up. I sensed my grandfather and the joy that he brought. I sensed my grandmother. And it was at that moment that I started realizing I'm dead. Because there's no way that I could be with these people because they're all gone. That was a shock to me. Up until that moment, everything was just a dream. I was raised Roman Catholic, and I'd like to mention I am recovering, thank you. So my idea of death and dying was pretty simple. You went to the pearly gates, you were judged, and you had the high road, and you had the low road. And I was fairly certain, based on what I'd been told in my life, that I was not taking the high road. The only joy I took out of that was that neither were any of my friends. So we would be there together. I had the opportunity to see parts of my life, one of which I have in a photograph. I see it all the time. It's a picture of me feeding my son. But in my life review, I felt him, his shoulders wiggling in the blanket. I smelled the formula. I enjoyed the love that we shared right there. And I'm very fortunate that I have that picture and I carry it with me. There was another scene that wasn't so pleasant. A scene in which I had hurt someone very badly. And I did one of the things that I never thought I would do in heaven. And that was I cried. I cried because I saw these events not through my eyes or my feelings, but I saw them through her eyes, her feelings, her pain. And it brought me to tears. The rest of the life review reminded me of all the sweet, loving moments of my life and also some of the not so good ones. But it was during that one where I was crying, where I felt a wing wrap around me. It's the only way I can describe it to you that makes sense. A wing. And a voice in my ear said, "Remember, here you are learning." Now I'm waiting for the yardstick that I remember from my Catholic school education, and I was waiting for it to hit me right on the back of the head. What hit me on the back of the head was the statement that here I was learning. There is no judgment other than the judgment I was giving myself. And we're pretty good at beating up on ourselves. So I would, Carol Ann mentioned Father Mumford, and Father Mumford, one of his favorite prayers for me, or one of the things that he says is, "Stop it. Why are we beating up on ourselves?" The second thing I didn't have and I didn't anticipate was I argued with the angels when they told me that they were sending me back. This is peace. This is love. This is calm. This is home. And you want me to leave? I think kicking and screaming would have been a pretty good description of what happened. I didn't win that one either. They sent me back with a message. And that message was, remember to love. Considering where I was at that point in my life, I had no idea what remember to love meant. So I had to think about that. I had to feel about that. And I just want to give you a little taste of what I had come up with over the years. Merriam-Webster defines love as a strong affection for another arising out of a kinship or personal ties. It's an affection based on admiration, benevolence, or common interests. It's a warm attachment, enthusiasm, or devotion. Something we hold dear, we cherish. Songwriters have been trying to figure out the right ways to say it for thousands of years. I got this card from a friend of mine in 1982, and it describes love in a little different way. Love is a feeling of beautiful warmth one person can bring to your heart, and a feeling of loneliness deep down inside whenever you must be apart. Love is a feeling of gladness that comes from the sight of that one happy smile, Francis. A feeling of comfort you have when you know there's somebody there the whole while. Love is a feeling of such a special caring, a feeling of magic and fun. A feeling of wonderful oneness you share with that certain one. I thought that was beautiful. And I get goosebumps thinking about it. The Buddha says, when you like a flower, you pluck it. When you love it, you water it daily. Love is the expansion of two natures in such a fashion that each include the other, each is enriched by the other. That comes from Felix Adler. To love is to receive a glimpse of heaven. How true. That's from Karen Sunday. That's why love stories don't have endings. They don't have endings because love doesn't end. That's from Richard Bach. And I have a little bit of a sense of humor, so I'd like to point out that the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy says, avoid it if at all possible. Our heart generates electromagnetic energy that we can send forth to everyone. We send that love. We do it here in meditation. I heard several examples of us sending something to someone else, and it's done through our hearts, the center of love in our body. Proverbs 27:19 says, as water reflects a man's face back to him, so is the heart of one man to another. This means when you are treated with love, your heart feels that love. Ultimately, the reason why love and compassion bring the greatest happiness is simply that our nature cherishes them above all else. The need for love lies at the very foundation of human existence. From our friend the Dalai Lama. Many of us near-death experiencers report that we have been exposed to pure love, that we've come back with that feeling etched in our hearts. It is one of our greatest senses of home. It can also be one of our biggest challenges, because we know what it should be like, and we see so many examples of people not treating each other with that same type of love. The love of heaven, the love of the universe, the love of Source. It can cause us to go into cyclical depressions, which is another fun thing that we don't find out until afterwards. But we have to love our way through it. Bryce Courtney says, love is an energy. It can neither be created nor destroyed. It just is, and always will be. Giving meaning to life and direction to goodness. Love will never die. Love is an energy. And the best description of energy that I have ever seen comes to us from Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us. It penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together. To me, that is love. And we express that love in many different ways. Starting with our love for the divine, and we work our way down through our planet and our environment, our governments, our geographical locations, our causes, our hobbies, our family, our neighbors, our co-workers, our significant others, and ourselves. Love of ourselves can be a very big challenge. All it takes is a beautiful smile to hide an injured soul, and they will never notice how broken you really are. Robin Williams. What a bright spirit that we all saw, but we didn't see the turmoil within. There is turmoil in each and every one of us. We are all broken in some way. By seeing that challenges in other people. It's one of our missions to see and love what we find in other people. What is their broken spot? And love them for that. Our greatest challenge is to find that within ourselves. To learn to love ourselves, even during our darkest, maybe especially during our darkest moments. We all have trials and tribulations, and that's when we need to apply the love of Spirit, the great I Am presence. My Roman Catholic background calls me to say God. And I don't winch when I say that. Just because someone stumbles, loses their way, doesn't mean they're lost forever. Sometimes they need a little help. Professor Charles Xavier. I found science fiction when I was in the 5th grade, and it taught me about the possibilities of life. That we were fairly arrogant to believe that we were the only species in the entire universe. That there wasn't life out there somewhere else, and how we could look at it in many different ways. It also helped me to realize that our mistakes and challenges seem to always work their way out through history. You rise, you fall, you make mistakes, you live, you learn. You're human, you're not perfect. You've been hurt, but you're alive. Think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, and to be with people you love. Sometimes there's sadness in our journey, but there's also a lot of beauty. We must keep putting one foot in front of the other, even when we hurt. For we will never know what is waiting for us just around the bend. And I can't pronounce the name of the person who wrote that, but I did a little bit of research. She's from India. And you've read, every one of you has read something that she's written that'll make you feel like what I just read to you. All you have to do is go into a Hallmark store and pick up a card, because she writes these beautiful things that get on those Hallmark cards. Edgar Cayce said, every experience and condition is a useful experience, and these are either made as stumbling blocks or stepping stones. Nowhere does it say it's not going to happen, that we're not going to run into the brick wall, that we're not going to have pain and grief. It says they're made for us as stumbling blocks or stepping stones. The peaks and valleys are here to help us to understand love from all sides, even though we may not know it at the time. We can get caught up in the circumstances of life and not see the love that's there all the time. We are here to experience that love and share it with everyone else. But it starts with ourselves. Something else that I love to talk about because of my experiences in flying. Raise your hands if you've heard this before. In the event of a decompression, an oxygen mask will automatically appear in front of you. If you are traveling with a child or someone who requires assistance, secure your mask on first, and then assist the other person. My charge for you today, and the honor that I have to come and speak with you, is to remind you to love yourself. Love yourself fully. Love the good times, love the bad times. Love the joy, love the grief. Grief takes as long as it takes. That's it. There's no time limit. Loving yourself takes as long as it takes. There is no time limit. At 285 pounds, ladies and gentlemen, I did not look in a mirror. Probably for 10 to 15 years, maybe 20. And at one point, I know this is hard to believe, I did have hair. And it curled up in the back. And being a man from the country, that didn't look real good. So how did I get rid of it? Well, I used, believe it or not, I owned a hairdryer. I hear they're wonderful. I haven't had need for one in a long time. But I would curl that hair underneath. And I hear, you all know what I'm talking about. We all did this, or I did. But I couldn't look in the mirror directly. And I didn't have to, because I could do it from the side. But that's how I avoided seeing who I was. And even after I came back and had this mission to remember to love, especially myself, I had a hard time looking in the mirror because I kept seeing the 285-pound guy. Nice guy. Just big. And it wasn't me anymore. So it's a struggle to learn to love yourself. But it is a struggle that is well worth the journey. And when we go home, as we all will go home, I hope you smell some aquavelva. I hope you feel the tail wagging on your legs. But most importantly, I hope you feel the love that they have for you. It will be overwhelming. It will be exciting. And you will always want to go back. So thank you.